and signed the contract, albeit reluctantly. The next resident did the same, and then another. Lloyd knew that eventually these residents' reluctant faces would be replaced with smiles. The Ondal heating system is that effective. He was confident in his product, having studied the limitations of the local heating method, fireplaces. Fireplaces may look cozy, but their heating efficiency is poor. They only heat the area directly around them, and the warmth dissipates quickly. Not to mention the soot, ash, and smoke. You can't even use just any firewood. Maintenance is a hassle. Plus, someone always has to stay up at night to keep the fire going and prevent accidents. The Ondal, however, solved most of these problems. Knowing this, Lloyd continued pushing the sales hard, leveraging the fear of the residents. By the end of the day, he had secured more contracts than he had hoped for. He signed 32 contracts for Type A rooms and 57 for Type B. On top of that, he received a hefty advance payment. Jackpot! It wasn't a huge fortune, but it was a great start. It wasn't nearly enough to pay off the barony's debts, but Lloyd was thinking long-term. I may have had to push hard for these contracts, but once the Ondal rooms are completed, word will spread. I'll be able to expand into neighboring territories, too. His plan was to brand the Ondal system and start a heating business across the region. This was Lloyd's first goal. Phew. With the plan laid out in his head, Lloyd let out a deep breath. He glanced behind him. There, in the glow of the setting sun, was Javier, silently following him. Hey, you're strong, right? Yes, strong enough. How about being a human excavator or crane? Excuse me? You said you were strong. Couldn't you use that strength to dig or carry logs for me? It was an honest request. Javier was an incredible swordsman, with strength beyond human limits. If he could act as heavy machinery, the construction process would be much faster and easier. In other words, it would boost efficiency, allowing them to complete more jobs in the same amount of time, which would significantly increase their income. But Javier shook his head without hesitation. No. Why not? My mission is to protect your safety, Lord Lloyd. So, doing manual labor is out of the question? Yes. But you've been helping me so far. That was different. I viewed it as a knight's duty to help the tavern owner's mother. So, helping the weak? Precisely. But your request now is different. You mean you won't help me for personal business? That's correct. Stubborn, aren't you? I'm just doing my duty. As expected, Javier remained resolute. Lloyd clicked his tongue in disappointment. Still, I need proper equipment. The difference between having construction equipment and not was huge. It could make the difference between a project taking 10 days or 1 day. In fact, the type of construction you could even attempt depended on whether you had the right tools. If I want to make real money, I need to tackle bigger projects. He was satisfied with the Ondal rooms for now, but he couldn't stay at this level forever. There would be a limit to how much he could earn with this business alone. I don't want to be paying off debts for the rest of my life. That would be a nightmare. He had spent enough time worrying about money in South Korea. He had no intention of doing the same here. If I want to properly expand the business and pay off the debts, I need to solve the equipment issue. As he made his way back to the mansion, his thoughts grew more complicated. So much so that he didn't notice the way Javier was quietly watching him from behind. He's hard to figure out. Javier felt a slight sense of confusion as he watched Lloyd from behind. Lloyd Frontera, the Baron's eldest son. He had been Javier's charge for the past few months, and that's why Javier was so confused. Was he always like this? Lloyd had been a scoundrel. Even by common standards, he was terrible. He was impatient, lacked manners, and had no sense of propriety. He had lived his life drinking, gambling, and causing trouble. Even on the day the barony was seized, he acted no differently. Honestly, I couldn't stand him. I still don't. The more Javier learned about Lloyd, the more he disliked him. Had Lloyd not been the Baron's son, Javier might have killed him long ago. Despite his duties, Javier held nothing but contempt for the man he protected. At least, that's how he felt until a few days ago. But now he's changed, so suddenly. It was as if a switch had flipped after the tavern brawl. The very next morning, something was different. Javier remembered that moment clearly. He woke up after only being called twice. In the past, Lloyd would never have woken up that easily, and he had remembered Javier's name for the first time. But that was just the beginning. He visited the tavern owner, apologized, and promised to build an Ondal room. At first, Javier thought it was just another one of Lloyd's tricks, but it wasn't. Lloyd really did build the Ondal room, and he kept his promise to the tavern owner. Not only that, but he drew up contracts to build more Ondal rooms for the residents. For money? No, money is just a pretext. Javier had a gut feeling that something bigger was at play. He couldn't guess what Lloyd's true goal was, but one thing was certain: his actions didn't seem petty. It's like he's become a completely different person. His way of speaking had changed, as had his expressions and behavior. He was even showing abilities he had never demonstrated before. He had designed buildings and introduced a new heating system. It was baffling. Had Lloyd truly become a different person overnight? Yet, no matter how closely Javier observed, the man walking ahead of him was still Lloyd Frontera. Was he hiding this side of himself all along? That seemed like the only possible explanation. It made sense if Lloyd had been concealing his true self while the barony was at peace, only revealing his real abilities now that a crisis had struck. Perhaps that was the truth. Though it was too early to make a conclusion, it was something to consider. For now, I'll just focus on my duty. And if possible, Javier would continue to observe Lloyd closely. Javier Azarhán made up his mind, watching Lloyd's back intently. At that moment, a series of unexpected messages appeared before Lloyd's eyes. Ding dong! Your relationship with Javier Azarhán has improved by +2. Current relationship with Javier Azarhán, -29. You have gained 36 RP for slightly improving your relationship with a main character. Current RP 36. You can now invest RP to unlock new skills. What the hell is this? As the messages floated in the air before him, Lloyd's eyes widened in shock.